Hey homeschool friends, welcome back to the channel. So my oldest is in his last year of elementary school. So that means I've only homeschooled elementary school thus far. Stay tuned for some middle school content as I kind of wrap my head around what that's going to be like here soon. But I thought I would also take some time to reflect on the past 6 years and think back on what some of my favorite curriculum has been. And so that's really the plan for this video, is to target in on some of my favorite elementary homeschool curriculum, programs, all this stuff. So hi, my name is Angie. Welcome to the channel. If you're new, welcome back, all the things. So like I said, we're going to be chatting through some of my favorite elementary homeschool programs. And honestly, it's been quite a journey over the past 6 years. I feel like it was all important to get me where I am as a homeschool teacher, as well as my kids where they're at. I'm so proud of them. And I'm so proud of myself. So whenever I talk about elementary school, I like to emphasize my goals. So when I think of these years, I think of two things: the kind of basics, the 3 R's, even though that's not just reading, writing, and arithmetic, but those foundational skills, as well as delight and exposure. I feel like I've said this a lot on this channel. Those are the things I'm really honing in on with my kids, and that perspective affects how I pick which programs we're going to be using. Also, when I'm thinking elementary, I'm thinking K through 5. When I was growing up, I went to a 6th through 8 middle school. I know some people include 6th grade in elementary, but I don't. K through 5 is really in my head what I'm thinking of for elementary school. And so let's just hop into some of my favorite programs. Although I do want to throw in a quick caveat, because I feel like when people click on videos like this like favorite programs, I'm not necessarily saying this program will teach your kid to read. Every child's different. Every family is different. I'm going to have a few programs that were just simply efficient in that sense, but I'm also going to highlight some programs that I just thought were really well designed and well constructed, even if maybe they didn't fit my family. And so favorite is a bit of a loose term for me. So know that going in. This is not like fix all your problems type curriculum. I just want to highlight some of my favorites over the past 6 years. I think I'll start with the programs that bring exposure and delight, because those are the programs that are just fun to talk about. So for me, I've always been drawn to literature-based homeschool. I really love using books. I love using living books as well as encyclopedias. I just love that way of acquiring knowledge and chatting through things and looking at pictures and really deep diving into stories. And so it is no surprise to anybody on this channel, if you have been here a while, I really love anything literature based. Now lately we have been using Sonlight. So much Sonlight. We have used it for history. So here's our current history program. We're going through Intro to American History. It's for my 5th graders and 4th graders. It's fantastic. We get to look through books like this, and they're really great, as well as some resources that really focus in on people and like tell their story and help you understand how they fit into the bigger, broader strokes of history. And so we get all of that, as well as the literature and read alouds that tie in significantly to the kind of historical time period we are talking about. So it's all very connected. And so we have loved Sonlight, as well as for its science and for its language arts. So with science, I have made a number of videos. Actually, I've made a number of videos about all of my favorite programs. I will probably link a bunch down below because I only have 5 I can link above. And I have definitely highlighted all these programs more than 5 times. So science I've talked a lot about because I have a degree in science. I have my PhD in microbiology. Science is important to me, but I do want to make the caveat that I don't feel like these years are necessary to make it rigorous. Again, delight, exposure, and I felt like Sonlight Science really did that well, and my kids really enjoy science, some more than others, which as to be expected, right? But we just do a lot of reading through different resources, whether they be biographies of some famous scientists like Louis Pasteur, or they're just some amazing like Usborne encyclopedia books with all those wonderful pictures and snippets of information, plus like scannable links to watch videos. All of this is involved in science, and I feel like it's been perfect, exactly what we need, because when I get to the foundation section of this video, I feel like that's more important in my head. The learning to read, the early math, those things really need a lot of focus, and so this doesn't need to be rigorous, and I felt like Sonlight did an excellent job at the elementary years. But I would also like to highlight another literature-based program that kind of caught me from the very beginning, and I still purchase most of her resources, and that's Build Your Library. So I'm holding up level 1. But Build Your Library is a Charlotte Mason-inspired secular program that focuses on history and science and literature and read alouds. And so it's very similar in its scope. It's just kind of all inclusive in one program. And we have found some amazing reads and some amazing memories from these programs as well. So I just love literature based. It's no surprise there, but I feel like those two programs I have really enjoyed for different reasons. Entirely different reasons, but they've been really a big hit for our family. Before I move on, I realize I probably should just talk about literature, because both of those programs, Sonlight and Build Your Library, have top-notch literature. So what you're looking for is some really good stories that evoke amazing conversations. So things like Tale of Despereaux, this was a Build Your Library title, as well as The Golden Bull. These were both level 1 titles. I really enjoyed them. This one was particularly fun because it was early Mesopotamia, which is a tough time frame to come up with some like historical fiction that can really immerse your kids in a time frame. This is just a very fun story. We also had lots of other fun ones from like Sonlight that, here's some of the younger ones, like we're currently reading Adventures with Waffles with my first graders, and it's a fun reread, as well as some more recent literature, some Andrew Clements About Average, and some more classics like The Year of Miss Agnes. But yet the literature a lot of times ties into the history for both Build Your Library and Sonlight. But for example, Fever, 1793, Tolliver's Secret, we've read Witch of Blackbird's Pond, we've read Johnny Tremaine, so many good titles that just bring history to life, and it is my kids' preferred way to enrich those topics of history. And so that's been fantastic, as well as fun. Like I said, there's also lots of fun books that we read that they're not just always serious historical fiction. It's a good combo of both. And then in addition, some of our readers have been so great. Like I have some Sonlight readers here, like for instance, some of the ones that are from earlier years, like the Paintbrush Kid, and they're great. They have like proper amounts of words per page. It really helps them gain confidence in those years they're learning to read. But then there's some here that as they're really taking off, that just pull in their intrigue. Like they're just intriguing books. Like this, The Secret of the Sealed Room. It's a mystery book, as well as some Beverly Cleary, so some Socks books. And the list goes on. I feel like I'll probably just attach my Sonlight playlist down below because I have so many titles of like readers and read alouds that I just love and gush about. Although I will talk about the readers through Abeka soon. So let me come back to that. But reading really is the exposure and delight in our homeschool. We've done other things, especially early on. We did like nature study. I really loved gentle and classical nature. She's come a long way since I have talked about her program on this channel. I feel like I made a flip through years ago, and she's definitely moved past all of that. You can see the beauty of her program. You can see just what she's trying to teach with different life cycles and different things that I just loved. I thought it was perfect, especially for those early elementary years. And I feel like she probably even has now some programs that are more late elementary for nature-based study. We just haven't pursued that recently. And then I would say for the last thing that we've done that's just been kind of fun and delight driven has been poetry tea time. So I'm not a very fancy homeschool mom with this beautiful table spread with all these beautiful things and crafty whatever. I would always just buy like cookies at the store, and we would never have tea, but we'd have something else. I ended up calling it tea time, treat time. And we would often read like poetry type books for sure, but we would also read fairy tales or just various stories that were kind of short and perfect for that kind of an environment where it's just kind of a fun, exciting environment. We would also read sometimes our read alouds depending if we were getting like behind or anything like that. But we called it tea time, treat time, and it was really fun. I can't even remember which program inspired that terminology, but those were some of the programs or ideas that I really look back on fondly over these past 6 years that have just really solidified the joy in our homeschool. Now to move to some programs that are more a little practical, because you have to be practical as well as joyful in homeschool, am I right? And so you have to teach your kids how to read. And I have made a lot of videos on this channel comparing different programs, different phonics programs, kind of chatting through our experience because I have different kids and they've all responded differently. But in the end, there's been one program that taught all my kids to read. I say all because my twins, who are 7, are really doing well. They're not like independently reading in their rooms yet, but they're so close. And that program has been Abeka. Abeka has just worked. It's worked for my family. It's very methodical, strategic, spiral. It's very step by step. Lots of repetition, lots of exposure. Like honestly, if you did everything in this program, it would be overkill. At least it would be for my kids. But what I do love is your kids could need that, or you could really need to slow down, and you have extra resources within here to slow down, to practice. Like it's not like a program that's like, well, here's the teaching, and if you need to slow down, you need to figure out what you need to do between the lessons to slow it down. Abeka's not like that. I feel like Abeka gives you so much, which can be overwhelming. So hear me on that. It can definitely be overwhelming. This is like a beast of a teacher's guide, and there's so many manipulatives and cards and things. And I have put together some videos on like the resources I use. I tend to be a person who's okay using lots of resources. I prefer it to making my own flashcards or anything like that. I know you can definitely do Abeka cheaper than we did, but I'm fine with it. I don't have a lot of energy or a lot of extra time to be doing all that. And so I just would buy the resources, and you guys, it's worked. It was the thing that got my oldest to read, and then my middle child was kind of struggling, and then we started this and she took off, and I only use this for my twins. They haven't had anything else, even though I totally believe in the programs we used before, and I think they're wonderful programs. But for my family, favorite elementary school program is Abeka Phonics. So I'll put that down. And that's what I was gonna say. The readers that go with it, it's very much tied in. So it follows the special sound. So Abeka uses like a special sound sort of system, as well as like a 1 vowel, 2 vowel rule to kind of bring in the long vowels, and it gets your kids really excited about reading. And these readers tie into it. So do we go past grade 1? No, because so far everybody has learned to read after grade 1. So I've only used grade 1. I tried grade 2 with my son, but we kind of hurried on to something else. But the readers for grade 1 and the workbooks, the whole system has worked for us. And the beauty is that once we were able to get through this kind of a program, we were able to transition into Sonlight, which has, in my opinion, better readers, or readers that are just more interesting. This ties in perfectly. It has special sounds. It links up with your program, so you have to use these. But this is great to transition out of that into like, here's an actual story you can read. And so far, all my kids have responded well to that. Like they feel very accomplished once we are able to switch out and start reading some of the Sonlight readers. So slam dunk. Like I can't say enough about how well Abeka has worked for my family. Okay, but then in terms of like language arts, okay, so very much phonics is language arts, but as you get out of that learn to read, you enter into a lot more language arts, or at least for me, that's always how I viewed it. I viewed like our primary goal is learn to read for those really young years, and then it starts to be more spelling and grammar and vocabulary. And I do have a favorite program for the interconnectedness of those language arts topics. And that program is Logic of English Essentials. So I feel like the Logic of English Foundations, which is the Teach to Read program, is a really good one, especially if you have a little bit more of an intuitive child, or if you as a teacher are flexible and more type B and you can slow down and add your own stuff and it's a little bit more organic. I needed a little bit more hand holding, so that program didn't quite work for me in the long run. But this program I really, really like. We are currently taking a break from it only because of just teacher intensiveness, and I just have too many kids all around the same ages. But I really believe in this program. I think it explains the English language in a really approachable way. There's not a bunch of like equivocation, like, oh, here's a rule breaker for this, here's a rule breaker for that. Oh, you learn this, but with this exception. It's more like, well, there's not an exception. This is just how it works. It's almost giving a depth of understanding, which I feel like certain kids will jive with, others might not. But I found this program to be really thorough and complete, and I highly recommend it. Highly recommend it. It's one of my favorites, even if we're not currently using it. I do want to pick it back up for my twins because I feel like that might be a better time frame for me as a teacher. Actually, I think I do have an affiliate link down below. I can't remember if there's a discount. You can go look down below. I always do have a Sonlight code as well down below because you can get a discount with that. Actually, the only programs I have down there are my favorites, so check it out if you want. But Logic of English, it's a favorite. All right, so some basic stuff of language arts. So handwriting and typing. I've always been a Danielian handwriting fan. I think I made a flip through video a couple years ago. I like this style of handwriting, and I've taught it from the very beginning. It's taught all my kids. We deviated for 1 year and disliked it. What I like about it is how it teaches the manuscripts. It starts with a very fluid style with like what's called a monkey tail at the end. So there's not a lot of like ball and stick is what it's called, I think, right? Where it's like lots of lifting the pencil. It doesn't teach that. I'm a big fan. I'm also a big fan of, I forgot to bring it over, The Good and the Beautiful typing. Also made a video about that. It's just very straightforward and very simple. And you can kind of work at your own pace and start back over. Well, it's taught my oldest to type and my middle's in process. We always tend to start typing in 3rd grade. Composition, writing, learning how to write, I feel like has been my struggle subject for a little bit. It's challenging, and that's okay. I know and realize that's kind of the next big hurdle in education post like learning to read. Phonics and learning to read is a challenge, and then learning to structure thoughts and ideas. So for me, some favorite programs have been kind of a combo of things. First is Brave Writer. Okay, we've used a little bit of everything and it's been good. I've used them more as kind of stop off points where we need a fun writing project for this month or whatever it is. But what I find Brave Writer really excels at is this. It's not even this program. This isn't necessarily a program. It's just a way of thinking. It's like more of a mindset, an ideology for how to approach writing with your child, how to approach trying to get their original thoughts out of their head, how to support them in that process, how to take so much pressure off them learning to write, especially in those years when they're also learning to spell and grammar and all these things that are just holding up their thoughts, their rich thought life, and their ability to get it out of their pencil onto a paper, right? And I have learned so much through Julie Bogart, not even just this program, but her YouTube channel, her podcast, the Brave Learner Home, which is a community I joined when I purchased like a year-long program or something like that. So I love that about Brave Writer. Again, I feel like there are some families who could probably rock the whole Brave Writer lifestyle a little bit more than I could, just for various reasons, just the way my family is set up and the way my personality is. I couldn't embrace it in a whole, but it has taught me how to take those ideas and apply them to other programs such as Sonlight. So I feel like this combo has been perfect because this helped me with teaching this to my kids and supporting my kids with the prompts and the way that Sonlight also has a more natural approach to teaching writing. It is more prompts driven. It is a little bit more structured than Brave Writer, but it's less structured than a lot of other things. And so for a while I was floundering with, I don't know how to help my kids. I don't know what to ask for. I don't know how to teach this. And I think honestly, that was just time. I needed time to kind of gain confidence in my teaching with it, but I really do love the writing process in Sonlight. I love how every year you kind of revisit a similar writing structure, just with a little bit more depth, a little bit more expectations, things like that. We also have used IEW, and I want to mention it. I'm not going to label it a favorite program, so maybe I shouldn't even mention it in this video, but to me, it held a very important 8-week window for my kids when they are learning to write, because it helps them with just the skill of pen to paper, transferring a significant amount of ideas because those ideas are not their own. They use a source text, they use all this other stuff. Now I have other issues with IEW, which I've discussed in other videos, and it's not a part of this video, but I do value that 8-week time frame in my process of like mindset, main program, but a little bit of that IEW to give them practice so that when they get to something like this, the blank paper isn't as big a deal. They've kind of processed through a little bit of that just by using the IEW program. So those are some favorites when it comes to composition. All right, so to end though with 2 subjects that I'm not quite sure what my favorite programs are, although I do know what my favorite math program is for my oldest, for my son, and that is Saxon Math. It works for him. It's very spiral. It's very traditional, straightforward way of teaching math that just jives with his very logical boy brain. Saxon Math really works for that. Not quite sure with my daughter. We're currently using it, but I'm still not quite sure. So I would still call that a favorite program. Now coming to spelling, this is the one where I've tried everything under the sun for spelling. I don't have very gifted spellers yet. My top 2 at least struggle a bit with it, but I struggle with it. So it doesn't really surprise me or worry me too much. But I've gone through all this spelling and I don't even know what I could stand here and say, this is my favorite program. I could show you what we're currently using and what's currently working, but I've had a lot of times when a spelling program was currently working and it's no longer working. But for those kiddos like mine, who really just kind of struggle with spelling. It's not their favorite. They're not gifted at it. All About Spelling really does work. We used it early in homeschooling and then we put it aside because it was too teacher intensive because I had twin toddlers, and we picked it back up this year and it's been great. It's been what we've needed. They're getting good practice. Is it a favorite program? I'm not sure. I think so. I think so. But that's the last one I did want to talk about because it's just a little less of a slam dunk than, say, Sonlight. Slam dunk. I love Sonlight. And so those were the programs, upon reflection of the past 6 years, that have been instrumental in our homeschool. One, in just bringing just delightful, joyful memories, as well as literally teaching my kids to read and giving them some foundational skills in these areas that are necessary. And so let me know down below some of your favorite programs, what's just been so good for your family and your kiddos. I love to hear from you guys. I love to hear success stories. These are some of my success stories and I love it. It's really fun to think back on how these programs have really enriched our family. But if you have nothing you necessarily want to share, that's totally fine. But if you want to let me know you're here, which I do love knowing that you guys are here and watching and supporting my content, even though I know it hasn't been as many videos this year, leave a little bumblebee for All About Spelling. But that's what I have. I hope you all are well. Give the video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you want to. Go check out all those links for all the variety of flip throughs and videos I've made on these programs, as well as any affiliate links if you are looking to purchase some of these programs. So anyway, that is legit what I have. And I will see you guys in the next homeschool video. All right guys, take care.